Wow, that was caught on tape. Good timing.
I know.
I want everyone to know who did that. It was her.
I knew as soon as I had that cookie said,
Was it her? You? Oh, it was you. I'm sorry, everyone. It was Eve. I did. Well, you had this look on your face like, what did I just do? Jet should be walking around taking attendance.
Grace is not
No, I'm not capable of that, no.
We're live.
Yeah. Just a reminder, 2 Kias due Friday. You can keep taking those as often as you want. That's fine. It's the first attempt that's counting for your grade, but it is a good idea to just practice. It's a way of studying because that stuff is grounds for assessment. So you can keep taking it. That's just fine. Yes, dear. No, my recommendation is a good way to study is to have Mr. Friendly Highlighter in your hand and to daily review your notes. And then being honest with yourself, highlight the stuff that you know. Not the stuff that after you read it, you think, I knew that, but you really didn't know it. I mean the stuff you honestly never have to look at again. And then you highlight it. Highlight it means don't bother looking at it anymore. If you do that every day, by the time we get around to actually taking this bad boy, you'll find that you're not studying the entire thing, but maybe 2/3 of it, half of it, because you got half down. You got it. Okay, that's what I used to do in college. It's a very effective. You don't paint a house in one coat. Thin coat, second coat, third coat. Beautiful house. That's what I would recommend. Right, here we go. We're looking at the emergence of Britain, England/Britain. You'll notice at some point I'm going to stop saying England and I'm going to start saying Britain. And that is because something happened over there in Europe. But at this point, they're still English. And the replacement of Spain by England as the dominant European force as far as North America is concerned. And they took over this area here, these islands, right? I'm sure many of you have vacationed in the Caribbean islands. It went to England because of European wars. So England now is the controlling European force in the Caribbean. And what is grown there, which is one of the most addictive drugs in the world, sugar. It's almost up there with phones as far as America is concerned. Sugar is a highly addictive drug, and it is very, very labor intensive. You got to cut that sugar cane down, and then you got to boil it, and eventually you get that white powdery stuff. Sugar is what I'm talking about, okay? And you need slaves. You got to have slaves to work those fields, cut down that cane, boil that stuff. You need massive amounts of labor, and so a massive influx of slaves to the Caribbean. Way more slaves than slave owners. Does anyone see a recipe here for something, well, depending on your point of view, either real bad or pretty good? Anyone see what I'm talking about here? Yeah, some sort of a revolt is potentially there. And so in response, the British create a series of laws called Black Codes, or they're also called the Barbados Slave Codes. Anyone want to take a shot at what they were? Very good. Okay, so they were laws that were created to restrict the freedoms of these Africans. It became illegal to teach your slave how to read or write, because if they read, they might realize after reading, wow, my life sucks. And so if you don't teach them to read, the belief is they'll be forever ignorant. They won't realize that their life is a pile of poo. Don't teach them to read or write. They'll never become educated. Later on in this class, by the way, what am I doing? I'm synthesizing. Later on in this class, Southern states would do the same thing. They would make it illegal to teach your slaves how to read or write. They would make it illegal for slaves larger than a certain number. I'm not even sure what that number was. Let's just say 4. You could not have 4 slaves together off the plantation for any reason. You had to have a white person there to supervise them. And same idea. If a bunch of slaves are together, what are they doing? What are they doing? Are you talking about me? At you like, oh. And then they like become quiet and suddenly interested in your shoes. They were talking about you. Anyway, back to this. Once again, we have some examples of restraints. You might think, thanks, 3 actors for acting out the part of slave. Nope, this is an actual picture. This is an actual photograph of some slaves in the Caribbean and how they were restrained by metal. Kind of depressing. Any questions or comments before we advance? Let's rock. Let's go back to Europe. I am now going to continue the story started by Alright. Remember Alright? Alright. Oh, everyone this time. I'll sing the first verse and then join in. Mr. Barry is going to enjoy this. And by the way, the talent show is always in March. How about a group effort? Ready? Oh, yeah. Alright, the 8. Alright, the 8. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Alright, the 8. Oh, yeah. We drop the microphone. We walk off stage. We just walk off stage. Lindy, probably be a judge. You've done it again. You've done it again. All right, ready? Everyone. I am Henry.
Henry.
I'm not hearing anybody.
Henry VIII.
Eve, you are my new favorite. A, you can go home. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Okay. Well, that's chapter 1. The creation of the Anglican Church. That's chapter 1. How about chapter 2? Are any of you Lutheran? If you're Lutheran, here's your founder, Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King. That's someone else. This is Martin Luther. And we're talking about slightly less than 20 years after Columbus crosses the ocean blue in 1492. Martin Luther comes up with about 80 or so complaints about the Catholic Church. The guy was a priest. He was a Catholic priest. And he said, there's a bunch of problems with the Catholic Church. Henri has already broken from the Catholic Church. He's created the Anglican Church. But this guy had some theological complaints. I think I told you about one, the idea that you could buy years off burning in hell, which meant that hell was full of poor people. And he thought that doesn't make any sense. He had some other ideas. It was very common in Europe to sell pieces of the actual cross that Jesus died on in Europe. And if you think about that, how is that possible? Jesus was crucified in the Middle East, according to history. That piece of wood somehow made it to France? How'd that happen? Or I remember one, this is true, I've seen it. You're in Rome, you can go into a certain church, and there it is, the crown of thorns. The crown of thorns. When again, now I'm not questioning anyone's faith. If you believe this stuff, awesome. But when you think logically, how'd that happen? Did someone walking about 1,000 years ago say, well, look at that. It's a crown of thorns. It must be the one Jesus had on him. I'm bringing it to Rome. Wow. Right? Wow. This guy said, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So I'm going to break from the Catholic Church and start my own church, the Lutheran Reformation, right? Broke away. And now one more brick is taken off that wall of Catholic dominance. The Anglicans have broken away, and now the Lutherans have broken away. Weaker church. Well, let's keep going. I don't think anyone here is Calvinist. That sort of died off. John Calvin was also a religious dude. He believed in this thing called predestination. And I'm wondering if anyone wants to take a shot at what that was. We've got 1, we've got 2, 3, 4. I haven't heard from you yet. Go ahead.
Looks like your life is already predetermined what it's going to be.
Very good, right? God already knows who's going to heaven and who's going to hell. It's already been predetermined. When, if you think about it, that means, if you think it through, that means that if I'm on the good list, I could go grab a pair of scissors and stab all of you in the eye sockets. And I'm still going to heaven because it's already been put on the list. It's predetermined. There's nothing you can do. One way or the other, God, when he created you, said, I shall create you, and then you shall burn in hell forever. He's decided about some people. And this guy believed it. John Calvin, and he taught, and people believed him. And he broke from the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church said, well, no, that's not right. You can be forgiven, you can live a good life, and then God will change his mind. And John's like, nope, he's already made up his mind. You're burning, or you're good. And they joined him. All right, let's keep going. The Puritans. Now, you might be looking at this picture. Can you see it? You might be looking at this picture and thinking, those aren't Puritans. Those are pilgrims. Pilgrims are Puritans. They're the same, with one little difference, which I will inform you of, although somebody in here might actually take a shot. So think about it. We have Catholic Church. And then this piece breaks away, becomes Anglican Church, answerable to the king. Decades later, we're not doing it right. We need to purify the Anglican Church. And we're going to do it. We're now called Puritans. We're pure Anglicans. That's who the Puritans were. Now, anyone want to take a shot? Well, then who were the Pilgrims?
You're the ones that weren't right.
That's a good guess. You're wrong. Are you okay? But I very much appreciate that you took a shot. Anyone else want to take a guess? I'll give you a clue. These people stayed in England to purify the Anglican Church. Come on.
So then the Pilgrims
They left.
Yeah.
Very good. Puritans purify the church. Pilgrims were the Puritans who said, screw this, we're out of here. We're leaving. Pilgrims were Puritans who left. And where'd they go? Plymouth Rock. Okay, you know that story, I assume. So the Pilgrims were also known as the Separatists. And what boat is this? The Mayflower. The Mayflower that sailed in what year?
No.
Do we not know? It's 1620. Very good. 1620. It sailed for the colonies. Why did those people get on that boat and leave England?
Not pure.
Well, give me a simplistic explanation. Why did they stay?
They wanted to do their own.
Right. The freedom to worship as they wanted.
Start new.
Religion. Now, remember don't be under this myth that they left England because they were getting picked on. But in America, they would let anyone worship with. No! In England, they were bullied. In America, they'd be the bully. You will be a pilgrim, said this guy in that hat. And later on, Lincoln wore it. Again, I want that thing around his neck. I want it. Makes your neck longer, I think. Anyway, this is James the First. And he didn't appreciate the separatists, the pilgrims, so he encouraged them to leave by burning a few. And they said, we got to go. I have a dental appointment. Time to go. Okay. So you are looking at the English monarch who is responsible for the pilgrims leaving. Yes, dear.
Is he the one named for Jamestown? Is that him? Or no?
I think that's him. Yes.
Cool.
It's either that or another guy named Town.
Yeah.
Let's go with James.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's it. Any other questions? We are almost done with note taking for today. How about that? Rocket. Ready?
No, we get up done at 12:50.
Sorry, what? I don't know. Separatists were the Pilgrims. Separatists, I'll give you a better definition. Separatists were Puritans who came to the conclusion, it's not working here. We got to go.
That's what pilgrims are. So what's the difference between pilgrims and
Nothing.
There is.
separatists? So separatists is another word for pilgrims.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Although it's pretty close. Some separatists were not pilgrims. All pilgrims were separatists, but not all separatists were pilgrims. Other separatists separated for other reasons.
Other pilgrims
Separatists left
separated.
because of James.
Other separatists separated.
Wait, so separatists.
If you
are-
say wait one more time.
Separatists are pilgrims that left because of James.
Yes, that's right. Very good. And now here's the story of where they went. So the Pilgrims get on the Mayflower and they head to Holland. Holland. I bet I could randomly pick anybody in here and you will walk to the map and have no idea where Holland is. Holland.
Pick me.
You know where Holland is.
I can try.
Oh, I like the way you said "I." I can try. Wait, before you do that, duet. I am already. Very good. Okay.
Right there.
Where are you pointing?
Netherlands.
Very good.
Ah!
Okay. Oh, yeah!
Yeah.
Wow! Very good. Okay. Holland is the Netherlands. They're the same thing. Holland is the Netherlands. And if you think that's weird that a country is called two things, you live in a country with two names. O ye of America and United States.
Idiot.
Okay, three names.
No.
So they do. They leave England, they go to the Netherlands,
I wanna hear my-
also known as Holland. The problem with the people in the Netherlands is they speak Netherlandish. I'm not Dutch. Very good.
And
They
French.
speak Dutch, which is annoying to people who speak English because, as you know, if you ever travel anywhere, you shall speak English, says American traveler to whatever country.
Yes.
Very good. And so they thought, well, this isn't exactly working. Let's go to the Americas. Let's start over. And this, what I'm about to do, is sort of like synthesis, but it's actually slightly different. It's something called contextualization. Look for the pattern. Synthesis is when I say this one other thing over here is sort of like this one other thing over here. Contextualization is when you step back and you say, is there a bigger pattern? I contextualized the other day when I said Europeans would expand westward, confront Indians, they'd fight a battle, fight a war, Indians would move, promise we'll never bother you again, and then the Europeans would expand. That's contextualization. There's a pattern. It's repeating throughout history. And here's the other pattern. We are a religious group. The people around us think we're weird. Let's go over there and let's isolate ourselves and become the dominant group in this new land. No one will bother us again. Can anyone in here impress me and everyone else in here by naming a group, a religious group in American history that did that? Yes.
Jewish?
No. Jewish, American Jews. That's a unique one. The history of the Jewish people. Get into world and conflict. We talk about it. Go ahead. Very good. The Mormons looked at as being weird. They had weird views. And we'll talk about the Mormons later. Anybody else? Anyone take sociology?
Cool.
Come on.
What about
Yeah, any cult.
the brethren?
Let's go.
Any cult.
The 8 tracks.
And America's full of them, right? How about the Jonestown?
How about that band called Engage, Educate,
It's open.
That was my pick for winner. Loved it. And you did win, right?
Yeah,
The
no,
band,
we
yeah.
tied, yeah.
Okay. So where'd they go? They land right that green star there. And they call it Plymouth. The story goes that they hit a rock, which they called Plymouth Rock.
Why
I
did
doubt
they
it.
say James?
Because they founded a city called Jamestown.
So
Wait, start over.
If you say wait one more time,
So they land at
you just
Plymouth
want me to
Rock.
say to get you to stop talking so I can like say something.
Hold on.
Stop.
Hold on. You said we don't have to raise our hand yesterday.
what if this hurt my feelings?
Sucks for you.
Oh.
It's cold.
So the separatists went to Holland.
Yeah.
And then they went to.
Plymouth and founded a town
Why
called
did they
Jamestown.
go there?
Where's Plymouth?
So because they tried to fit in another culture, it's not working. So let's go off and create our own dominant culture. Okay. Question.
Okay, so was Plymouth founded first, or was it founded after Jamestown?
I don't know. Next question. Before they got off the boat, and this is really kind of a neat little story. All the men. Ready, men? Here we go. Men. Come on, men. Come on, men. Signed this piece of paper called the Mayflower Compact. It is one of the more important documents in world history. It is a document which explains a couple big ideas that are present in our government today. And when they wrote our Constitution, you know, Tom is there and James was there. And Tom says to James, hey, what are you going to write in that Constitution? And James says, well, I'm thinking about having an idea known as majority rule. And Tom says, majority rule? Where'd you get that idea? The Mayflower Compact. Oh, good idea. Do it, James. Tom told James. Okay. What is majority rule? What is majority rule?
So if most
you have
of
the
the people
majority,
say
then-
yes, then we're going with yes, and most of the people say no, we're going with no.
Very good. Now, I'm going to pursue this just a bit. What if a majority wanted and voted for to strip blacks of the right to vote? What if the U.S. Congress today, most members of Congress passed a bill signed by the president, blacks can no longer vote? Is that the will of the majority?
No.
It isn't?
Technically, but it can't
There's
happen.
the along with the third branch of
The
government, which
things
is
that
the
the thing.
Constitution says no.
Okay, so she's arguing that even if the majority do want that there's this piece of paper that says, well, too bad. And that is something that we are going to play with all year. And that is, we're kind of a country that goes with the will of the majority, except when the will of the majority clashes with this annoying document known as the Constitution. When the majority says A, but the Constitution says B, the answer is B. So we are not a purely democratic nation that always goes with the will of the majority. No, we're not. Sometimes we go with the will of the minority, the smaller group, over the wishes of the bigger group. And we'll look at examples of that throughout this test. It's really fun. The second big idea that this document created was an idea called consent of the governed. Hey, Buthling, do you give me your consent to cuff you in the back of the head?
No.
She does not give me her consent. I shall therefore not cuff her in the back of the head because she did not give me her consent. What is consent?
Yes.
Permission.
Yes.
Break down this idea then. Consent, permission of the governed.
Government.
of the people.
Being uncontrolled or like,
The
yeah, the people's control.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick on you. She kind of mumbled. Who rules our nation?
Government. Well, I mean,
According to this idea right here,
oh, the government. The people.
we
Yes.
do.
'Cause
We do. So you got to think this through. Who is the president of our nation right now?
President
Right.
J.
Trump.
Trump. President.
Next question. Why him? Why not me?
The people. You should run.
We voted for him.
I did.
We
We actually did. We voted for Hillary.
chill. We gave Trump our consent to rule us, which means we rule us. We gave up our power to control and said, here, you do it. That is consent of the governed. Another way of saying this is we vote. We choose our leaders. We vote. But again, they don't get to do whatever they want because of this annoying document called the Constitution, which limits the will of the majority. Again, we'll play with this later on in this class. Another way of saying consent of the governed is self-government. We rule us. But this is more radical than you think. In Europe, there was this idea known as the divine right of kings. Anyone ever heard of it? The divine right of kings. How come Henry VIII was the king of England? Why him? Consent of the governed?
No, because he was told.
Family.
He was supposedly
Bonding
told
time,
by-
but-
Very good. Okay. In Europe, they had this system called feudalism. And at the top was Pope. And then the king of each desk. Okay, you're the king of this desk, and you're the king of that desk, and you're the king of that desk, and you're the king of that desk, king of that desk, king of that desk. Hey, I, Pope, crowned you. I put the crown on you. Pope did. Not the consent of the governed. The person above you crowned you. And if I can crown you, you know what else I can do?
Take it away.
I can uncrown you. The Pope gets to do that. But the U.S. says, no, you got it wrong. It's not the person above who crowns the leader. It's the people below. Consent of the governed. We down here pick our leader, which is a rejection of feudalism. Feudalism is, no, the Pope picks the king. This is an argument that says, no, we pick the leader. Not king, leader. Okay? It's a rejection of feudalism. It's kind of a radical idea. Today we'd be like, well, of course. But back then it's like, what? What? Last note, back off, ladies. He's taken. This is William Bradford, the first governor of the Pilgrim Colony, called Plymouth. That's a fine mustache. Check out that hair. 1,000 strokes every night. You get rid of that dead hair. And as I said, I mean, sometimes you take these pilgrims and say, don't you see the irony? You said how unjust it was that you weren't allowed to worship freely in England, and then you come over to Plymouth where you say everyone has to be Puritan. Don't you see the irony? And his response would have been, no. No, I don't. I don't see the irony.
Do you want the thing around his neck?
Nah, it's kind of lame. Questions? Very good. Now I have either good news or bad news. For Eve, it was good news because she didn't do it. If you didn't do it, it's good news. You're off the hook. I have decided that the documents that you looked at for today are better served as possible historical evidence that you could use for other documents. So we're going to skip them. I do invite you to look at all of them as potentially pieces of historical evidence to support either Zinn or
So are we
Schweikert.
going to write that relationship paper as an option now, or do we only have 3 options?
We're going to only have 3 options.
Okay.
Very good. Did everyone understand what she just asked?
No.
She just asked, okay, does that mean that this topic is no longer one of the 4 options that we could write about. And the answer to that is correct. This option has just been taken away. You can either write about, you have to write about 2 of the 3. Columbus,
Colonization.
the justification for European colonization, and then the third one, which we haven't talked about yet, which we're going to do.
Native versus European
Is
culture.
that the right time?
Yeah. No. Yes.
Yes.
We have until
It's
12:50.
Oh, wow. Okay, that scared me. Like, that's not possible. Okay. The third topic would be the superior culture, frankly, which is what you're about to read about. So, within your table right now, I would like you to. Where does so it's starting on the bottom of that third page. It says Native versus European culture. And we've got Zinn's first one, his second one, Zinn's third one, Zinn's fourth one, and then we have 3 Schweikert and Allen. So there's 7 documents. 7 documents. I'll tell you what I'll do to sort of. No, let's stick with that. Within your table, just pick one. So, right, this is a table of 3. They don't each need to pick 2, and then someone has the unlucky third one. Just pick one, pick one, pick one. At least they'll make sure that somebody at your table has Zinn's point of view and someone else has Schweikert and Allen's point of view.
Okay.
Okay, look at it right now. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Go ahead.
The first one.
We'll take the second.
Take the third.
So let's do the
I don't even have
Schweikert.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, someone has to do Schweikert and
So you
Allen.
took-
because
Okay,
you're-
I'll take
Uh,
the last one on the second page.
Okay.
How are these
Schweikert
numbered?
and Allen.
So you have to take one
It's
of the third to last, second to last.
Are we on this page?
The last page.
Um,
Back.
Yeah.
You
What are
can
my
choose
options?
any of those except for that one.
So numbered 16 through 21, right?
Let's do second to last, one or third to last one.
Yeah, dude, just Tony, second to last one.
Okay.
Wait, what is it? Question we're answering? Okay, Native versus European culture. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did drop the flat 19 right now.
I got a grade for drawing. I'm not even drawing anymore. I'll just stay in it. What?
Mine doesn't really say who good or bad.
Native versus
Well, it's Zinn,
which
so
one
you
is
can
it?
assume.
Zinn, yeah, you can see what's bad.
Yeah, but you have to.
How do they view their Native versus European culture? So like, what's
So let me frame this so you kind of know what you're looking for. Zinn and Schweikert and Allen both offer their view of which was the superior culture,
Gotcha.
either the natives or the Europeans. Which is the superior culture? You could probably guess what Zinn and Schweikert and Allen had as far as opinions is concerned. See if you're right. Go ahead.
Where's the-
So one would think that the Native culture is better, and we would think European culture is better.
Is he native and European?
Yeah.
You want to say natives are superior? Like they're like. I think-
I thought that Zinn thought that the Did you guys, what do you guys have for it? Have the
For
Europeans?
Schweikert, I think he thinks European culture is better or superior.
Because
All he does is talk
things
about
says
is the
swam
Indians.
outstreet them. They had no horses or worse animals. They had no iron.
Yeah,
They
these
could
would.
spin and weave, but they
Because
had.
I read these before. These would say that
They
the
both
natives
think that
had
the
superior culture. Yeah, because all he does is talk about Indians.
Yeah, Zinn
They
thinks
can
that
swim
the
long
natives are
distances.
better at like living. But they're like-
They fight there individually to move to.
They are agile, he says, and can swim long distances, and especially the women.
Mine gives like no one.
They are not completely peaceful, but they do battle from time to time with other tribes.
Okay, so Zinn thought
Casualties are
that
small.
The natives were better.
superior.
Like we're better.
Oh boy.
It's really confusing though because Europeans were
Bad. Yeah, they were.
Oh, no, I don't.
So many of you are discovering that there's more than one way to make this argument. What Schweigert and Allen do is there's two ways to argue that the Europeans are superior. By either arguing the Europeans are superior or by arguing that the natives were inferior. Makes the same argument. Understand?
This guy seemed pretty good.
This cat.
Wait,
Europeans were more advanced. The natives could spin. They lived in villages
So, like,
and they developed
always.
I'm not.
There is a typo. Document 11 should say tools.
11, yeah.
Or whatever.
18.
Which one? Which article?
Oh, it says twos.
18.
Are we just waiting for the rest of the hour? Or?
No, we're going to start talking about it.
Yeah, we have 20. We have 19
Oh,
minutes.
way too much time.
Sorry, I had to ask a question, but.
We have 19 minutes.
Guys, I'm feeling so good right now.
I'm not.
I feel like
I
it's
still need lots of.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready to at least start? Again, I would submit that documents 16, 17, 18, and 19, which were what you were supposed to have read yesterday for today, would be well used by you as evidence to support some of the claims that we're about to make today.
You mean 11, 12, 13, 14?
No, I mean 16. These documents right here.
That's
11.
11, 12, 13, 14.
This goes to 20.
Oh my God, I screwed up bad. I screwed up real bad. Okay. So which document is this one?
That one
This
is
should be.
number.
This is 16.
That's 15.
15. All right. Okay. Let's begin. We are now looking at the document that I've heard is document 15. It's the first document by Zinn under the part called Native versus European Culture. Do we agree that that is document 15?
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to be the champion of said document and make an argument that Zinn is making according to this document? Go ahead.
How Zinn is very much for the Indians in this piece of evidence because he states that they are much more almost civilized than the Europeans, calling them very hospitable and sharing with them. While the European people, they dominated everybody else, and they worked like an empire, ruling over other groups of people.
Well said. Okay. The superiority of the sharing, caring Arawak of the Bahamas. They were hospitable. They shared their wealth with each other. What the Europeans do, dominated. And Zinn is making an argument that means the natives are superior than the Europeans. Now, what you need to do is find a piece of evidence or two to prove this. But again, I'm going to suggest there's more than one way to do that. Either you find evidence of the sharing, caring Arawak or you find evidence of the brutal big meanies, the Europeans. Both of those make the same piece. It's like saying, well, here, you stand up. You're a good piece of evidence, right? Stand up. Now, who's taller? No.
Mr. Potter.
I am. Prove it. In two ways. Prove it in two ways.
When you
Stand back to back.
you turn left, you can't see her straight ahead. You have to bend your down.
If she was standing behind you.
Stevie. Stevie. There she is.
If she stood behind
Very
you.
good.
you
There's
couldn't
two
see.
pieces of evidence. One piece of evidence is my height. Another piece of evidence is her height or lack thereof. Okay? Thank you. You can sit down. I didn't mean that as mean. Okay, very good. Okay. Does everyone understand what I'm trying to suggest? There's two claims going on here. One is that the Arawak are good, and the other one is that the Europeans aren't. So find two pieces of evidence that support that claim, and I'm going to, again, invite you to look at the previous set of documents. You might see something in there that shows how brutal the Europeans were. I think you will, actually. Okay, very good. How's about the next one? How's about? Anyone want to take that one on? Zin, page 3.
Or like one against the Europeans. What were without.
Are we agreeing? Are we on Zin, page 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean, let's look at it. Approaching the land, the Spanish were met by the Arawak. Swam out to greet them. The Arawaks lived in village communes. They developed agriculture with corn and yams and cassava. They could spin and weave. Everyone, kumbaya, lo, visit island. I want to live there, says Zin. They had horses. Nope. And did they have cows? Nope. But they accomplished anyway.
Yeah.
They didn't have these beasts of burden, and yet they were able to live. Live. Any questions there? Which is the more superior species? The one that has all the material advantages and uses them, or the one that doesn't have the material advantages but thrives anyway? This is the opinion, right? This is the old who's better, Bird or Jordan, right? Larry Bird was slow, couldn't jump. Michael Jordan could jump he jumped higher than anybody. Who's the better athlete?
I am.
Right? There were those that say, well, Bird was because he couldn't jump, and yet look at what he accomplished. And then there were those that say, nah, Jordan was because look at his gifts that he had. Same thing. Who is the superior culture? The one that had all the wealth and all the metal and the horses and the cows, or the one that didn't have any of that stuff but thrived anyway? Zin would make the argument. The natives.
You just
Oh, that's cold. All right. Let's try one more. And then I do want to give you time to, really think about these. Another Zin one. This is the back of the very back page. This is in page 5. Anyone want to take on that one? Kind of, I think you could actually just skip to the second paragraph for kind of a persuasive argument being made. Did anyone take this one on? Go ahead.
So when they thought there were not that many casualties and they thought for themselves, it wasn't because they were told to. And marriage laws were non-existent. They got to choose who they married or daughter.
Who did? Who's they?
The natives.
The natives, right? So this is kind of an interesting argument, and I think one that you might find persuasive. Who is the superior culture? The one that had females as second-class citizens, the Europeans, or the ones, the natives, who women were equal, completely equal. And by the way, very fine swimmers, really good swimmers. It says it right in this document. They could swim. Who's the superior culture? The Europeans, where women could not be priests, could not own property, et cetera, et cetera. I'm giving you historical evidence, by the way, right now. Or the native culture, right? Look at that second paragraph. Women in Indian society were treated so well as to startle the Spaniards. Las Casas, we've met this guy. Remember Las Casas? He's the guy that rode with Columbus. Says marriage laws are non-existent. Men and women alike choose their mates. It's a free-for-all. But Zin is praising it. Okay? Let's do one more. Promise, last one.
You're addicted.
This is Riley's.
Who took this one? So this is Zin, page 11. Riley, you're in. Let's go.
Let's go, Giggle.
What do you got? This is the one where it says twos and it should say tools. Sorry.
Yeah, he says that they built like these enormous constructions here on stone. Like they. What was the question? I don't know.
Well, it's like, why is the native culture superior?
They They knew how to like build their like drone buildings and they developed the right system.
Very good. They had an advanced culture. So there's this image in your head. When I say Indian or Native American, you're picturing somebody on a horse riding to chase the buffalo, dragging their teepee with them. And, you know, oh, there's buffalo. Let's go get it. Because we're a nomadic society. And Zinn is now pointing out, no, it was an advanced culture. They had pyramids. They had a system of writing. They had calendars. They knew the dates. They were just as advanced, and in fact, more advanced, because they built their pyramids with no metal. Who was the more advanced culture? The one that had the material advantages to build their temples, or the one that didn't have those advantages but built the temples anyway? Now we're done. Okay, we will finish the rest tomorrow. We will also, by the way, go over your highlighted attempt of that one paragraph tomorrow.
That we were gonna do today.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm 9.
Just stapler, Mr. Potter.
Oh, man.
Oh man is right. So I'm gonna look at all these documents.
So according to this attendance, Riley Germain isn't here.
She just showed up.
Riley Germain is here.
They came in, yeah.
There you are.
They weren't here at the beginning of class.
No problem. How about Bryson? I thought I saw her walk in. Yep. Okay. And Bryn.
When you get to see the beginning of the video, you need to watch the video. Bryn, you need to see the video. It's funny. Oh, that's fine. It's gross? Whatever. Okay. We did it another day of CIS.
Stop your video.
Yeah, I should.
It's amazing. I want to watch it.
You're gonna watch it?
I just want to watch it.
I haven't watched any of it.
You've been here all the time, haven't you?
Yes.